This could be relevant to you if you're a crocheter as well, so join the fun. Push the glasses up the nose. Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm here with Knitting Natter to help you learn to knit the easy way. We're talking about yarn this week, we're still decluttering, and some of the big questions might be, how on earth did I get all this yarn? Where did it all come from? Why is it all sat there and I haven't knitted with it? I'm going to answer some of that today. We are looking at knitting mindsets, and basically it's yarn mindsets now. This could be relevant to you if you're a crocheter as well, so join the fun. In my experience, having too much on myself sometimes, two big things that have come up. And there are more things that are relevant to the mindset that kind of make you have much more yarn than you think. So I'm going to explain those a bit more today and kind of help you get over them maybe. Move past them, if that's possible. I think it likely is. The first one is really guilt. You can feel guilty about so many different things with your yarn stash because your yarn comes from so many different places, so many different journeys it's been on to sit there in your stash and make you think you've got too much. And the guilt doesn't let you move it, doesn't let you declutter it. That's the problem that we've got. Why is that guilt stopping you from decluttering? Let's find out those reasons and move past them. One thing that we can feel guilty about is that you've started knitting something but you've not finished it. You are so attached to maybe starting something and not finishing it. It's the guilt that you haven't completed. When it comes to not finishing something, I've got this great book here that I absolutely love. John Acuff has written Finish. And he's got lots and lots of strategies in here to help you finish something if you feel like this proverbial starter that never gets anything finished. And that can be one of the problems when it comes to works in progress. And so, for example, a few of the strategies are cutting the goal in half and saying, well, actually, I wanted to knit this blanket, but let's finish it as a cushion cover. Make it fun. Enjoy your knitting. So if you ever get this project out and you ever think this work in progress is never going to get finished, then pull it out and enjoy it. Listen to music while you're knitting. Have your favourite Netflix programme on while you're knitting. Do a dance every 20 minutes when you finish and complete a particular portion of the knit. The other option is to actually make a decision and say, no, that's not what I need to knit right now. So that's something that will make you say, actually, that knitting yarn, I don't need it anymore. I don't want it anymore because I'm not going to finish that project and I can't see any other use for that yarn. It's leaving. It's going. So that guilt of starting to knit something and not finishing it and still having that yarn sat around, you can actually let it go. Another reason why you might feel guilt about having too much yarn is buyer's remorse. That is, you've spent money on it and you regret it now. I think the biggest thing we have to realise about that is that the money is no longer in your now. You can say, oh, I spent £50 on that yarn, but I've never knitted with it. It's not £50 anymore. You can't go and get a haircut with it. You need a different £50. That is your yarn. You can sell it. You can swap it with a friend for yarn that you will actually really love knitting and you actually need it now. The other option is to just say, okay, I'm willing to let it go. That's fine. It's not in my now anymore. It's gone. By selling it or swapping it, the value will feel like it's been renewed. I think the biggest thing about the fact that you feel guilty about spending money on it is that you remember how right it felt when you bought it. That could be a big part of it. It's like, why did I say yes? Why did I love it so much? And now I hate it so much. And there's this real conflict in your mind saying, but I feel guilty about not having it anymore because maybe I just don't know myself. Because that choice was something that you made when you were a particular person 3 years ago. Now that you're 3 years older or however much older, you can say, actually, it makes more sense now. You can realise that you were very likely a different person. You'd learned different things. So those choices that you make now are more discerning and you probably wouldn't pick it up now. It shows that you've grown. So that guilt needn't be there. It just shows how much you've grown. The other thing that might make you feel guilty is that someone gave it to you. Perhaps it was a gift. One of your best friends knows that you're a knitter and they've just found this little yarn shop and thought, I've got to get that for Hannah while I'm on holiday. And you never want to knit with that yarn, ever. But you keep it because you feel guilty if you don't knit with it. You can say, actually, I don't need to keep it. It doesn't have to be in my life anymore. I can let it go. If someone has given you yarn, maybe even as a, I don't need to knit with this, would you like it? What you can say is, thank you so much for remembering that I'm a knitter, but I don't actually need any more yarn at the moment. That's enough. I don't need a big explanation. Not at all. So the next reason that we have too much yarn and we don't declutter it is scarcity. All crafters will feel this at some point. Well, they're discontinuing this ribbon, or they might discontinue this ribbon, so I need to get 5 reels of it now just in case. And have you ever used all 5 reels of that ribbon? You don't use ribbon that much, so probably you've got 4 excess reels and you're still on the first one. It's the same with yarn. You love it so much, you want it so much, you knit with it so much, but you've got all of this sat in your storage, and you just go out and buy the new colours because it's still available, and you just keep adding to your stash. It's not a good idea. It'll be discontinued if I don't get it now. That's the story that I know I used to tell myself. The other thing is, I'll never find this dye lot again. I mean, to that point it's true, but you will find a different dye lot of the same yarn in the same colour, very likely. If you look at a lot of yarn manufacturers, now they're so embedded and set in their ways, a lot of them will be making those same yarns over and over again for many years to come. Some of the Rowan yarns that I knit with, they've had for a couple of decades, and there's no way they're going away. And some of the colours and dyes, they just use them for years. So they are so loved and so appreciated that they just keep creating them and making them and spinning them, and they are there on the shelves whenever we go to a yarn shop. So just remember that. One other thing you might do if you are someone stuck in scarcity is saying, well, I need 8 balls of yarn for this jumper, but how about I buy 11 or 12 just in case? Well, if you need 8 balls of yarn for the jumper, at the most you're likely to need 9. You can have the 9th one just in case it needs repairs at some point, or you want to knit one of the sleeves a little bit longer perhaps. However, you do not need 11 or 12 balls of yarn. That's an extra 4 balls possibly. Just think a bit more realistically about how much yarn you need when you are looking at a pattern and it tells you how much yarn you need. And sometimes when it says you need 8 balls of yarn, what you really need is 7 and 1/10 of a ball. So you'll have a decent bit of leftovers already. It's just the fact that you enter the 8th ball, but you don't really use a lot of it. Scarcity mode comes in there and you get far too much, and you begin that hoarding cycle. And what happens if you start knitting that jumper and you don't like the yarn anyway? Then you've got a lot of yarn to get rid of. And sit there and feel guilty about. Just thinking about scarcity, does it show up somewhere else in your life? Do you buy 3 t-shirts at once in the same colour, in the same size, and it really means you've got too many? Do you fill your freezer up if there's a little space in it? Get everything when it's on a bargain, but actually realise you got too much, and possibly end up throwing away fresh food as well. That's hoarding, that's feeling scarcity. Also, do you perhaps not quite recognise it yet in yourself, but you see it in those around you, so it's more of a learned trait, and you just haven't clicked that that's part of the problem yet. So just think about that too. Scarcity is not believing that God, the world, the universe, the knitting company will give you what you need when you need it. The abundance is there for you when you need it, and when you ask for it, and also when you're not actually looking for it. So these things can come into our lives as a great surprise, and if you're loving knitting so much and you are loving exploring new yarns so much, you will find favourite yarns that you love yarns that you want to experiment with and enjoy, and there's only so much yarn you can knit within a lifetime. So we do not need so much yarn, half of which we'll never knit with. Those two I feel are the most prominent mindsets that we can get stuck in if we are knitters and we have yarn stash. It's just those two things that can say you have to keep it, or you have to have more than you think you need. So just maybe explore those a bit this week as you're thinking about how you organise your yarn and how you move through this yarn declutter one step at a time. And we're not asking you to just say, that's it, all gone, done. It's one step at a time and one realisation at a time. If you say, oh, I thought this was my favourite yarn, but now, 5 years later, it's not. So I don't need it anymore. I can offer it to someone else, I can sell it. If you make that realisation and don't feel guilty about having it, then it's a great step. And it could be the first step. And then in a month's time you say, okay, I'm just looking through my stash again. I feel very similarly about this one, so I'll make the same decision. It's just having discernment when you're doing some kind of declutter. And as Marie Kondo teaches, a lot of this stuff we are sentimental about, and we do have that strong attachment to because of what we've knitted with it perhaps. So it can take time to just make that decision and have that understanding with yourself that it's okay to let stuff go. The sentimental things are what Marie Kondo lets go of last and suggests you sort last. We haven't done all of the other decluttering around the house first, like kitchen utensils that she might do. So just notice that yarn can mean a lot to you. So if you're finding this difficult and if you just need that little bit of extra time, then by all means take that time. If you want to take that time, the yarn declutter is finishing with the last email next week. But if you want to go a little bit further, then the yarn declutter, the larger course, is in the academy. It's bigger than the 4 emails. You have larger, longer live videos from last year, and you also have all the Q&A that I did through those as well. And also included in that is a whole section on works in progress. You've got bigger worksheets as well, and more worksheets included. So just if you want to take it that bit further, if you want to dive in and possibly take longer, then dive into that. This month, just until the end of April, it's £19 instead of £37. So if you want to dive in, take that. And indeed, you could say, I've done as much as I need to and I want to at the moment. I'll come back in 6 months' time, and that you'll know that that course in the academy is there for you. You just have to sign and use it whenever you want to. Thanks so much for being here today. If you want next week's email talking a bit more about decluttering, then sign up to the declutter. That's knitwithhannah.co.uk/declutter. I'll leave the link below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Happy knitting.